So my name is Jagriti and I'll be presiding the session for today. How many of us want to be entrepreneurs by the time we are going to be leaving college? By the time we finish graduation, how many of us have the idea of being entrepreneurs? Can we have a few raise of hands, please? One. Okay. It's only Mohammed. Okay. How many of us have an idea about what an entrepreneur does or what exactly is a business? How many of us have an idea of what exactly is a business? We have been studying this time and again, right from the time we have completed our schooling, we have gone into college, we have been constantly studying about business, different forms of business, trading, what is non-trading, what is services. So can we quickly understand what exactly do you guys have a perspective about business? Let me go ahead. So when we talk about business, we say that business is a commercial activity. So when we say it is a commercial activity, can I say that it is nothing but a financial perspective? It involves not just buying and selling, not just trading, but it also involves the rendering of services, provision of goods and the rendering of services. We will call this as a business. Now, whenever I think about business, we say that business is an economic activity. So when I say economic activity, can I say that the sole purpose of doing business is to earn profit? Yes? Can we say that? The sole purpose of doing business is to earn profit?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Now, whenever we are doing this business, it is not only to earn profits, but today, the concept of business has become much more wider. We say that business encompasses the activities of earning profit. It also involves incentives to the entrepreneur, so we are able to build capacities, so which is going to lead to economic growth. At the same time, we also say that business is done with the intention to satisfy the needs and wants of the society. Because if today we are able to satisfy needs and wants of the society, we can say that we are a successfully running business. Do we agree? Do we not agree on this? Yes? Do we agree? Have we understood what a business is?
Yes, ma'am.
We can say that business is nothing but buying and selling of goods or rendering of services with an intention to receive something in return for a consideration, which is nothing but profit, which is also the financial perspective of a business. It is an economic activity which is done with the intention of satisfying the needs of the society in order to ensure that there is aid in economic growth and also to act as incentive for the entrepreneurs to be able to build their capacities along with earning profits. Now, time immemorial, we have been looking at the concept of business evolving. We say that business is dynamic in nature. So business has been evolving right from the barter system till what we see today, having a corporate form of entity, having an online presence, doing business. It has become so simple to do business rather than having big shops. It has become simple to do business right from the ease of your mobile phone. By just a few clicks, you can also do business. Do you guys have any idea about these online businesses, which we can do just by the clicks of a few buttons?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, can you name a few?
Drop shipping through Shopify.
Correct, that is true. You have drop shipping, then you have something called as Meesho, you have Amazon. All of these are online businesses, correct? So earlier, we used to understand that the definition of business is nothing but having a shop, having a proper registered office and doing activities from there. After me, my next generation will carry over. So that was the concept of business. But when we look at it today, we have different forms, we have different categories, depending on what is your investment ability, what exactly are you looking at. So let me ask you a very basic question. When you came to PUC, again, you were taught about the different forms of businesses. Does anyone remember these different forms of businesses? Does anyone remember these different forms of businesses? No? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes? Okay. Can you please recall who's any?
Sole proprietorship.
Yes?
Partnership.
Correct?
and public company, private company,
Very good. You have private company,
LLP,
public company, LLPs. Yes. So all of these are,
and
yes, please go ahead.
that's it, ma'am. I just remember those.
You just remember those. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing. Yes. So we have precisely covered all the types of businesses. So we say that businesses have been of different kinds. We have sole proprietorship, we have partnership, we have Hindu undivided family, we have the LLP, and we have the corporate form. Now, the first three categories, that is your sole proprietorship, your partnership, and your HUF, these are called as unincorporated entities. Now, when I talk about the word, sorry, when I talk about the word unincorporated, it means that it is easier to start these and anyone can continue these businesses. The business can be changed as and when you want based on different needs. But when I talk about the LLP or the limited liability partnership and a company, this is generally the newest form of business which needs proper incorporation and registration. Without the proper incorporation and registration, we will not be able to take over these kind of businesses. Now, let us have a look at them one by one. When I talk about sole proprietorship, can I say that sole proprietorship has been there since time immemorial? Yes, sole proprietorship has been there since time immemorial. It is a place where a single person is doing all the activities. Correct? He is doing it for the purpose of sole intention of earning profit. Like if you just look at a shop on the corner of your house, or maybe a store which is just right across the road. Can I call all of these as sole proprietorship? Because these have limited coverage of area. They're available only in that particular area. He is doing only for earning profit for himself when he has a small scale of operation. Do we agree? Do we not agree?
We'll agree, ma'am.
Yes. So when we look at sole proprietorship, we say that here the sole proprietor is the single person who is taking all the risk of the business, who is getting all the rewards of the business. He has limited area of operation. He is always going to be buying from wholesaler in limited quantities and selling to the final customers. So when we look at these are some of the features of sole proprietorship. Now, can you just think of a few advantages of these kind of businesses? A few advantages.
No.
Yes? Sorry? A few advantages of sole proprietorship?
Easy to make decisions.
Yes, it is very easy to make decisions because he alone is the person who is responsible for all the decisions. It is easy to maintain secrets of the business because all the business secrets are available with the sole proprietor himself. There will be promptness in forming the business. Whenever he wants, he can change from one business to another. Correct? Now, here, since he also is having the ability to gather funds from in and around the area, he will not be having much capabilities, but at least he can gather funds, he can gather resources and cater to the needs of those people living in and around his area. These are all the merits of the sole proprietorship. Yes? What about the disadvantages? What do we think about the disadvantages of sole proprietorship? Yes, what do you think about the disadvantages? So can I say when I'm talking about disadvantages, like we've already studied, this is an unincorporated form of organization. So when it is an unincorporated form of organization, there's going to be a huge liability. So the liability of a sole proprietor is always unlimited. So after his death, the liability has to be settled off by his legal heirs, where there's going to be limited availability of funds. Why limited availability? Because this business is very easy to start, very easy to change overnight. So that is why there is lack of credibility. So when there is lack of credibility, big corporations will not be ready to invest. There will be financial institutions who will not be easily making the resources available to you. So we say there is limited availability of funds. Then we say that there is limited skills. Why? Because the sole proprietor solely has to rely on his personal skills and abilities. So in case he is having, we cannot say that a person is knowledgeable about everything or he has skills about everything. So because of that, there is limited managerial ability, limited skills. Then since the sole proprietor is entirely dependent on the life of the person, we say that there is lack of continuity. And also because he has a very limited area of coverage, we say that there's going to be limited scales of operation. But the best benefit of this is that when someone is having lower investment, when someone does not want to get into the complicated procedure of going across so many forms, going across so many steps to incorporate a business, then we will say that sole proprietor is the easiest form. Or in case you just want to start a business on just a ground level as a testing waters, then in that case, we would say that sole proprietor is the best form to start off with. Are we clear? Yes?
Yes,
Are we
yes,
clear with
yes, ma'am.
the next one we have is a partnership.
Yes, ma'am.
Is a partnership, can I say, is the successor of sole proprietorship? So initially, sole proprietor thought, yes, that is only one person who has to take all the risk, one person bears all the rewards. But then as the time started evolving, we started going to the form of partnership. Now here, what is a partnership? Here, two or more persons through an agreement agree to share the profits of a business, carry on the business for all of them or any of them acting for all. So either if I say that, let's say you and I start a business. So when you and I start a business, either both of us can do the work in order to further the activities of business, or any one of us also can look into the business so that it is going to be beneficial for all. Where you invest capital, I invest skills, or both of us invest capital as well as skills so that we can go ahead and earn profits. Now, again, like we said, like a sole proprietor, a partnership also is very easy to form because it comes just by an agreement. So when you and I enter into a legal agreement, we can say that a partnership is formed. But again, here, the partnership is dependent on the life of the partners. So unless otherwise the partners want to continue the business, generally when the life of the partners come to an end, the partnership also comes to an end. So because of that, we say that there is lack of continuity and there is unlimited liability. Because just like sole proprietors, here also it is way too easy to change the business with just minimal formalities to be completed. Now, so looking at the merits of partnership, we'll say that it is ease of formation. Because there is ease of formation, you can just enter into an agreement, get it done on a stamp paper, and your partnership is good to go. There is prompt decisions because there are only two or more people involved. So since there is better abilities, there will be much better ways of taking decisions. There will be easy winding up process because once you say that on the agreement, if you have a fixed period of time, or the partners just give a notice to each other saying that no, we do not wish to continue the business. Either both of them or one of them giving notice is sufficient enough to bring about the closure of business. So we say that there is easy dissolution of business. And just like sole proprietorship, this also has easy closure formalities and not much compliances to be fulfilled. Because whatever the returns of the business are there, the annual returns, the accounts, all of that are just same as the sole individuals themselves, the partners themselves. So there is not much legal complication. But here the benefits is that because there are two or more people, you have better availability of funds, you have better skills and abilities, you can do an operation which is much better as compared to a sole proprietorship. You cannot do a large scale operation, but you can do an operation which is better than a sole proprietorship doing the business all by himself. Yes, but when we look at the demerits, the biggest demerit is that there is unlimited liability. Because of this, since it is dependent on the life of the people, since it is dependent on the credibility of the partners, generally we say that there is going to be unlimited liability. The business may not be able to gather as much funds only because the partner's reputation will matter. The business is very nascent. No, and since it can close very easily, open very easily, no one will have the trust factor. So again, we said that there is limited availability of huge funds. Then the third one is lack of continuity. So just like when we see that it is dependent on the life of partners, any one of the partner passes away also, the business can be closed down. So therefore, there is lack of continuity. You're going to have limited scale of operations because you cannot spread out to different branches in different cities, different states, or as such. And we said there is lesser independence only because when two or more people are involved, they have to take all the decisions jointly. If one of the partners also do not agree, the decision cannot be taken. So therefore, we say that there is lesser independence. Are we clear? Are we clear, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
The next one we have Hindu undivided family. Any idea of a Hindu undivided family?
All business decision would be taken by the head of family named Karta.
Yes.
That's it, ma'am.
That's, So when we talk about a Hindu undivided family, now this Hindu undivided family is nothing but it is a business which is run by the entire family as such. In the earlier days, it was only the male members of the family that as soon as they are born, they would be becoming members of the Hindu business. But with the recent amendments in law, nowadays even women are allowed to take part in the business of the family. So here the karta or the head of the family is going to be taking all the business decisions with the help of his sons or his daughters, that is his children put together, where they're all going to be called as co-partners. So the karta is the head of the family. So the same way the karta is going to be the head of the business run by the co-partners. The co-partners can be males or females. Now, as soon as the child is born in the family, they become a part of the business. So there is no need of an express agreement like that of a partnership. The liability of the karta is unlimited, so the liability of co-partners is limited. So they are guaranteed that only whatever is their share of the business, that will be the only contribution of their liability. Then since generation after generation, we are going to be having offspring in the family. This business will generally have a better continuity unless and until the family business gets dissolved or they want partition, and we say that there is greater credibility in operation only because every single member's reputation commands respect. Yes? And these can be formed with minimal operational capability, and you have greater efficiency and productivity because every single member of the family is contributing to run the business. Now, when we look at the merits, we say that because the karta is the ultimate decision maker, so here there can be ease of decision making. There is easy formation because there is no agreement required, there is not much registrations involved, and as soon as the person is born, they become a member of the business. So there is not much complication. Then we say that there is perpetual succession only because generation by generation, the business is passed on. There is no limit on the number of members. If I look as per law, on the partnership, there is a restriction of 20 members maximum. But when I look at a Hindu undivided family, we say that there is no restriction of number of members because you cannot stop anyone from entering once they become a family member. So there is no restrictions imposed by law on the benefit on the number of members to be done in the business. Then there is reduced financial burden. Why there is reduced financial burden? Because every single co-partner shares the burden of the entire business. Even though the liability of the karta is unlimited, but still since every co-partner is having limited liabilities, the financial burden gets distributed among all the co-partners along with the karta. Then, since there are more number of members in the family, we have better skills and management abilities, and it is easy to set up businesses in different areas. Therefore, you can even achieve large-scale operations. Now, coming at the demerits, when we look at demerits, because we always have to rely on the decision of the karta, there is lesser independence. We say that whatever the karta says, that is the final word, that is the final call. So there is lesser independence of the people. Then the liability of the karta is unlimited. So in case any co-partner does any kind of mistake, it will still be the karta who will be bearing the burden of all of these. Then there is higher cost involved only because when you set up different branches, when you're branching out your own people from one place to another, you have cost involved of shifting the business, of moving the business, and initially it may not be easy to cover up all of these costs. And we say that there is uncertain life of the business only because the business is good as and when the family is having unity. But the moment the family decides to split, then the life of the business also will become uncertain because everyone will go by having their share. They may even start any kind of sole proprietorship, partnership, or any other form. But the main HUF business will come to an end. Are we clear with HUF, guys?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. The next one we have limited liability partnership. Now, the biggest advantage of limited liability partnership that it is a hybrid form between a sole proprietorship and a company. So initially when we used to see sole proprietors had unlimited liability, but Gen Next, that is your generation, our generation, we generally look for liabilities which are going to be limited only to us. But we also do not want to have a company form of organization only because there are huge compliance costs. So when there is huge compliance costs involved, but we need to have limited liability, and we want to have something which is going to be taking sole proprietorship to the next level, then we say that we have a limited liability form. So in in limited liability form, it is the next level to the sole proprietorship and to the partnership, where the sole proprietors or partners can come together with like-minded people and they can start a business with just minimum of 2 people. So it is a hybrid form between a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a corporate, which is giving the unlimited liability characteristic. So the limited liability characteristic. Now this LLP came in the year 2008. So it is a very, very, very nascent act, and right now in India, this is developing at a very faster stage. So young entrepreneurs who are interested to do their business, they're saying that, no, ma'am, I want to do the business with my friend only, ma'am. But unfortunately, we don't know, we don't want unlimited liability. We want some business secrets to be maintained. Then at that point in time, for these kind of people, LLP is the best form of organization. When you don't want too much of cost to be incurred by starting a company, or when you don't want to be having less of credibility by starting an ordinary partnership. So in between, you could just go ahead and start up a limited liability partnership. So a limited liability partnership, as the name says, it has limited liability. So the liability of every partner is only to the extent of contribution which they bring into the business. It is a hybrid form between a corporate and a partnership. So whatever the benefits are available to the company form of organization are all available, and whatever the demerits of a partnership are there, all of those are disregarded. There is going to be continuity of existence only because just like a company has a perpetual succession, and this is like a company, this business also has continuity. So irrespective of any members coming, any members going, your LLP will still continue to exist. Then since here it has limited liability, it brings about greater credibility, greater managerial efficiencies and operations to the business. So you can say that all the kinds of professionals like CAs, lawyers, doctors, these all are also allowed to start a LLP. You have to have minimum qualifications. So when you have minimum qualifications, you don't have minimum qualifications, you can still go ahead and start a LLP. It is recognized as a separate legal entity from the owners who are forming it. So in case you and I were to enter into a LLP, we would be called as the designated partners, and the business on itself will be called by the name whatever it is given by the law. So we'll have a limited liability partnership where the people, if at all we have any personal debt, it will not become a problem to the business. And whatever the business debts are there will not become a problem to us. And just by having simple registration formalities done with the registrar of companies, with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, through an agreement, a proper valid agreement, the LLP business will be started. Now, since here, because there are 2 or more people who are joining, each person will be called as a designated partner. So if there are 2 people, both of them will be called designated partners. Another benefit of having LLP is you can even include foreigners to come and become partners in your business. So one Indian, one foreigner can start a business. One chartered accountant, one company secretary, one lawyer can start a business. A group of doctors can start a business. So these are all the advantages of a LLP, which is not available either in a partnership or in a sole proprietorship. Then since there is separate legal existence, we can say that in case you have issues with any partner, you can just take them away, you can appoint new people, you can go ahead with the business in a way that it is going to be beneficial to any and every person. Opening branches of the LLP again is not much costly because you can go ahead and gather professionals or the like-minded people from every city and do the business only because there is ease of registration. But the difficulties when we look at it, the difficulties is a little bit higher cost as compared to the partnership, only because partnership is just by an agreement. But since LLP is from the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, there is cost involved in terms of filing, there is penalties involved in case you do not take care of your filing. There is penalties if you do not follow the provisions of the law. Then another demerit is that you cannot invite public to subscribe to shares. So there is limited availability of the fund. And for winding up, there is a little bit of difficulty in procedures because unless and until your accounts are clear, unless and until you have done all sort of legal compliances required under the law, you will not be in a position to close the business. Overnight, you cannot just shut your business and say that, yes, I am done, let me start off with a newer business. And once you become a partner in an LLP, the benefit you have is you can become a partner in any other LLP or even in a corporate entity only because you get better name, fame, reputation, and credibility in the market. Are we clear with the LLP form of business? Yes, boys, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
The last form of business we have is a company. Now, the company is the highest form of organization which any person could attain. Now, your company can either be a private company that is limited by shares, or it could also be a public company where any number of people can come and buy the shares. So, whenever I talk about a company, again, a company is a separate legal person. When I talk about a separate legal person, the shareholders who give funds to start the company versus the company are considered as two different people in the eyes of law. The company comes into existence by mandatory registration. So if I do not register with the Ministry of Corporate Affairs through the Registrar of Companies, I will not be allowed to start a company. Then, because this is something on a large scale availability, it has limited liability concept. So since it has limited liability concept, a foreigner can start a company in India, an Indian having a larger capital availability, an Indian who wants to do a business at a very large scale can definitely start off with a company, because here only by having a MOA and AOA, that is a Memorandum of Association and Article of Association, along with few basic other formalities fulfilled, you can start up a company. But in case you are a person who wants to just do testing waters on a limited liability, then definitely limited liability is something which is best for you. And as the limited liability keeps progressing, you can get yourself converted into a company so that you can have better operational efficiencies, you can have higher skills, you can allow the public to come and invest in you by giving shares to them, you can take up large scale projects, and you can easily transfer your interest in the company to another person and even make profits by transferring of your interest. But when we look at the demerits of it, we see that the company generally has much higher costs other than any of these four forms of businesses. And in case there is non-compliances, the non-compliances will have serious criminal and legal consequences. There is going to be difficulty in winding up of the company, because in case a company is stuck up with any income tax case or any other cases, then there are chances that unless and until these cases are not removed from your name, you will be having difficulty in starting up of a company or in winding up of a company. You generally pay up user taxation as compared to any other forms of business. Are we clear so far? Yes?
Yes,
Are we
ma'am.
Chalo, you can all just quickly have a look at the different forms of business. Let's have a quick recap before we understand what is the way to register a company. Just let's quickly have a recap, and then we go ahead to look at the registration process. Can I change the slide? Can we move forward, guys? Anyone still reading for sole proprietorship? Boys, girls? Oh. Can we move ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we move further?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Are we clear so far, guys? Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
The next one, now the registration process. The registration process, I would be talking today about the registration of a limited liability. Now, generally, my clients come to me saying that, ma'am, we want to start off a business where my friend and I are there, or my parents and I are there, and we just want to go ahead with the business, but we don't want to carry over the loans to our personal name. So when they don't want to carry over the business to their personal name, or when they want to have a huge scale of operations, or they have different kind of businesses which they want to do, where a CA and a lawyer want to combine and start a business, or a CA and a CS want to start a business, then generally the idea that I would suggest to them is that in case you want to have limited liability, you want to have something from the professional aspect point of view, then I would, and limited cost of formation, then I would definitely recommend them to start off the limited liability. So when you look at the registration process of a limited liability, since this is similar to that of a partnership, but with a limited liability concept, it is a very easy process to form the LLP. So the stage one that we have is called as the reservation of name. Just like in companies, how you give 6 names in order of preference, the same way when we are starting off with the LLP business, we need to give 3 names in order of preference. So we need to give 3 names in order of preference, which will be filed in e-form 1, that is electronic filing form 1, which will do the reservation of name. Now here you will submit this reservation of name to the Register of Companies through the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. So Registrar of Companies is the single point of contact who deals with not only the registration of LLP, but also deals with the registration of companies. So these are under the same provisions, under the same act. So once you give the e-form 1, within the next 3 days, whatever is the name available in the registrar, which is not being taken by any other person and which you can take up, that particular name from the 3 names selected will be given to you. So that is the first stage. Now, once you know that this is the name given to you, let's say ABC LLP. So let's say the registrar has approved the name of ABC LLP. So now, from now onwards, whatever the next stages of formation you will be doing, you will always be doing under the name of ABC LLP. Now, this validity of the name is for a period of 3 months. So that means that all the registration formalities you need to complete on or before the end of 3 months from the date your name has been sanctioned. Because in case you do not complete the formalities within 3 months, that name, whatever you had said or whatever the name was given to you, that will be struck off from the registrar and it will not be given once again to you no matter what, until and unless 6 months from the date has passed away. So please ensure that whenever you register the LLP, you have to complete all the formalities within 3 months from the date of name approval. Now, once the name approval is there, once you know what is the naming ceremony to be done for your business, the second step is filing of the personal details of the partners. So the people who are forming the LLP, just like partnership, they are also called as partners. But the two most important people, there can be 2 or more people starting the LLP. But the two most important people who are taking over all the responsibilities, saying that in case tomorrow any legal compliances are not done, any criminal offenses are done, I will be the person taking responsibility for the entire business. So these two people will be called as designated partners. So you need to file the details of the designated partners in the second stage. So when you're filing the details of the designated partners, you will be filing their names, their occupation, their identification details, their address details, that is your PAN card, your Aadhaar card, your bank statement. You will be filing all of these details. What is your status right now before starting the LLP? What is your status in terms of professional qualification, in terms of your occupation? All those details will be given by you in the second stage. So that is nothing but the consent of the partners to act as partners. So here we will be doing this in E-Form 2. So in E-Form 2, you file all the partner details of the who is going to be the partners of the proposed LLP. Now, you also have another compliance here to be done called as the consent letter. So unless and until every partner gives a consent letter saying that on his own wish, on his own will, he has agreed to become a partner, your LLP will not get approval. So please ensure that you are taking the people who are of credibility, who are not having any criminal background, and who are willing to become partners and take responsibility in your business. In case they do not want to take responsibility, they can become ordinary partners and not designated partners. So once the people are ready to take responsibility, they can become designated partners. So once you finish filing the details of the designated partners, in the third stage, you file the LLP agreement. Now, what is this LLP agreement? Just like the partnership agreement, you put all the terms and conditions with regard to profit sharing ratio, with regard to duties of the partners, the responsibilities of the partners, the rights of the partners, the legal obligations of the partners, what is the contribution they have done to the capital, whether the contribution is done by money or whether they have contributed any other assets or any other like things to the business. So all these details will be done in your LLP agreement, along with the basics of date of starting of the business, the name of the business, what is the activity that is going to be carried on by the business, does the business have any branches, in case they want to admit any new partner, they want to throw away any partner, that is called expulsion, or in case any partner wants to retire, there is any death of any partner, what are the formalities going to be completed, what are the formalities required before any of these things happen, all these will be filed in your agreement of the LLP. Now, once this agreement is filed with the registrar, in the next 7 working days, you can expect the registrar to go ahead with the agreement, check in case of any mistakes are there. In case there's any mistake, it will be cancelled and it will be resent back to you, saying that please correct mistakes which have been given, and there will be a list of mistakes given by you. You will have to, they're given by them. You will have to recorrect the mistakes and then submit the form once again. And once everything is neat, clean, and clear, and there are witnesses who have signed your form, on that basis, your LLP will be incorporated. So the day you get the certificate of incorporation of LLP, you can say that the registration of your business is completed, and from that day, you will be getting the birth certificate of the LLP, that is nothing but the registration certificate. Your business is going to be properly valid, recognized business in the eyes of law, and you can go ahead and start promoting your business in the name that is being sanctioned with the unique LLP identity number which is being given to the business. Along with that, you will also be getting unique identity numbers as the designated partners. Just like how a company has directors, the same way you will be called as designated partners. So this LLP form, generally they say that within the 30 days of name approval, you are supposed to be filing the LLP form. Are we clear with the procedure? Let's have a quick look at it and then we go ahead. Yes. Are we done with the registration process reading?
Yes, ma'am.
So I am done with my presentation. Do you guys have any questions for me? Any doubts? The session is open for doubts and questions.
Ma'am, what is the difference between a designated partner and a partner?
Okay. So when there is any criminal liability, when in case the business is not being run in a way it is supposed to be run, when you have violated any terms and conditions which is given in the LLP agreement, then the first person who will be caught, who will be tried against in the court will be the designated partner. Because since if you say you are a designated partner, that means that you are agreeing to take all the responsibilities, whatever is going to be connected with the business. If it has any risk and reward also, all of them will be equally sharing. But in case there is any penalties, you will be the first person who will be having the right to be trialed against. So when I talk about a normal partner is someone who will just come, who will work for the business, take his share of profit and keep moving. But when I talk about a designated partner is generally someone who has started off the LLP business, who has put his investment, who has put his heart and soul into the business, and he is ready to take any risk involved in the business. So a normal partner will not take the risk. A designated partner will take all the risks of non-compliance.
Understood.
Any other questions, guys? Do you want me to play any sliders again? You could just have a look in case you want to ask questions. So how many of us want to be entrepreneurs? After going through all the types of businesses, do we have any more entrepreneurs, or is still only one person who wants to continue? Oh, one more person. That's great. So we have two entrepreneurs. Three. That's good. So what form of business are you guys looking at then? Yes, Sohail. What kind of business are you looking at? You want to
Ma'am,
start?
I am trying to make my entrance into food products.
I'm sorry.
I'm thinking of doing something with food products.
The food product. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
I think they will definitely be requiring you to have mandated registration and all. So you should definitely look for an LP then.
LLP would be good if I had any partners, but I thought of it is kind of going to be a family business. So,
Oh, okay. So why don't you involve your parents only, one of your parents as a partner or your siblings as a partner, whoever is maker. So any maker can become a partner. So you can take responsibilities, you can make them also take responsibilities. You can all contribute together. And also there will be the business will be within the family.
oh, okay. So I can still have the authority in my hands, in a single hand.
Yes, you definitely can have the authority within your own hands. So you can just put your parents or one of your siblings as a responsible partner, and both of you are doing business, you can be the partner since you've contributed more capital or you've contributed more ability. You can definitely be the decision-making partner.
Understand, ma'am. Yeah.
So Danny, what happened? You raised your hand?
Yes, ma'am. I want to start a service sector, ma'am, like a brokerage company.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know what are the formalities and legal formalities should be done before starting company.
What kind of brokerage company are you doing? Are you doing so real estate?
Ma'am, yes, real estate, ma'am.
Okay, you're doing into a real estate.
Yes.
Okay, so when you are doing into a real estate, you can either start off as a normal partnership also in case you want to have unlimited liability, but normally you just want to do testing waters. You can start off as a partnership also saying that, okay, fine, let me just go ahead and have a look. But in case you're sure that, no, I know how to do this business correctly, you can register as a LLP. So first thing is you'll need to have one more designated partner along with you. You'll have to have all the terms and conditions, that is, who is bringing what amount of capital or what amount of contribution in the form of assets. You will have to do your agreement, that is your LLP agreement you will have to do. Then you will have to get to a certified chartered accountant who can look into all your forms, who can verify the forms, and they will do the filing for you. So once the filing is done, you will be good enough to start your business. And wherever you go, you just have to use the name, let's say Hussaini and Family LLP. So you will have to use the word Hussaini and Co LLP. So you will get a better recognition in the market only because LLP is recognized as a higher status as compared to any other unincorporated organization. So you will definitely be having a better credibility in the market also. You'll have to start off a different bank account. So whatever the brokerage commission you are getting, you will have to be depositing it into that particular bank account. All the expenses of your business will be having to go from that bank account, and every year in the end, while you're filing your own income tax returns as partner, you will also be filing the returns of the business because that is a separate entity. So those will be the list of compliances which you will be having to do as a proper business of real estate.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, and for example, nowadays there are brokers who charge 1%, 2% on commission basis. So,
Correct.
what I'm trying to do is, I just want that brokerage to be limited and fixed. So, if
Okay.
I do that,
Mhm.
can the brokerage authority or there will be some institutes behind them, like they have their own sangha and things. Can
Okay.
they affect me if I do so?
Definitely not. They
Okay,
will not. So you're asking that in case you charge a lower brokerage as compared to your competitors, correct?
ma'am.
Yes. So in case you charge a lower brokerage as compared to your competitors, that is purely your own business tactics. That is purely considered your own personal business strategy. So it will not be affected if you charge a higher commission or a lower commission. Since it is your business, you can do it however you want, but you should do only as per certain agreeable limits. It should not be like, oh, I know you have too much money, I'll charge you 15%, 20%. No. If it is within the agreeable limit that is not harmful to anyone, you can definitely charge a commission which is lower than them also. Because you are not eating away the clients. If the clients only are searching and coming to you, you can entertain them, but you cannot eat away anyone's clients. So you can definitely charge a lower commission. It is not a problem at all, and no one will have the right to affect you.
Okay, ma'am. And ma'am, so with that, I'm planning like, expanding like the business with other services like package movers and house services and things like that. So how do I, secure myself? Like if I'm, moving someone's home, like things, if how to get insured to
You
those
can
things.
ask. Okay, when you are moving other people's homes, correct? So now when you're moving other people's homes, by default, for packers and movers, they have a condition in their business saying that whatever the damage will happen, the damage will be ensured that when we are moving, the damage will not be done. And in case the damage is done, we will be paying for it. So here what you can do is you can enter into insurances. You can enter into insurances just like when the goods are coming from one state to another, how they do transport insurance, correct? The same way you can enter into insurance wherein any kind of items which are high value items. Generally, if you do insurance for everything, it may end up in a loss. So what you do is you can do insurance for high value items belonging to the client, where you can ask the client to give a list and you can accordingly ensure that the items are being transported properly. But in case the items are not transported properly, there is some breakage happened, there is some other things happened, you can limit your losses by going and making them claim from the insurance company. So there you are going to be safe because the items are already insured. But in case you are taking the insurance part for them, you can charge a higher percentage as a fee for providing insurance. So on their behalf, you can go and take insurance contract with the company. So that will
Okay,
help you.
ma'am.
If you're charging from the clients, then the clients will be responsible. But in case you're charging from your end, you can take a fee from the client and you can go and get the insurance done. So tomorrow, any kind of losses happen, the insurance company will reimburse. So you have insurances available for high value items. So you can definitely do that. Or in case the client has been negligent, then in case you can put a clause in your agreement itself saying that if because of your negligence the items are broken, our company will not take any responsibility. Because a lot of times what happens is, once you know insurance is being provided, a lot of clients try to cheat the businesses. So when they try to cheat the businesses, they will purposely do the packing in a loose way, or they purposely try to say that okay, kuch nahi hai and all, but it may be a delicate item, and if your staff is not careful, you may land up in trouble. So there are chances when the client is doing mistake, you will come in problem. So you can also put a clause saying that for normal items, there won't be any insurance given. It is completely your risk. But in case there is any high value items, we are ready to get it insured. So that is the way you can limit yourself from getting any kind of losses or getting any kind of problems with the customer.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome. Do we have any more questions, guys?
Guys, anyone has the question?
No, sir.
Okay, shall we wind up the session? Okay, guys, we will wind up the session. Thank you so much, Jagrati. It was a very, very informative session, and I hope the session will be very helpful for the students.
Yes, I hope to say too. All the best, all of you. Thank you for your time.
Jagruti ma'am, it was great learning for me. I attended this session from the start.
Oh, thank you so much, sir.
It was a great learning for me also. I hope the student enjoyed the session, and I also briefed them yesterday. So yesterday I took the session and I briefed them why this session is important for them to understand.
True, sir, true. Because nowadays India is giving scope to a lot of young entrepreneurs. So it is definitely going to be a worthwhile thing for a lot of the new generations that's coming up.
Right. Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Sir, thank you.
Yeah. So students will connect tomorrow at 12. So tomorrow I'll be taking the session, and you can check the schedule. So I'll see you tomorrow. See you. Thank you. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.